Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Fed Flash Faceoff. I, of course, am Gary Ryan, the Fed League Flash, and I am coming to you live taped, that makes sense, from Mennen Arena in Morristown, New Jersey, pre-game before the Watertown Wolves and the Danbury Hat-Tricks face off. Of course, this is our showcase event, neutral site game, one of 3 games that the league is putting on for neutral site games. Of course, next week we have 2 games in Minnesota coming up, and the league just trying to build up support for pro hockey, FPHL hockey, in some new markets. So will it happen here in New Jersey? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'll have a segment just kind of showing you around a little bit more with the arena. But on this show, the big news, of course, is the expansion to South Haven, Mississippi. That is confirmed. It is done. The announcement came out Wednesday. And so we're going to delve into that a little bit. In Flash Chat, we're going to talk about how geographically it's really strategic where South Haven is, how it affects the other teams, and I can tell you it's all positive. So tune in for that. We're going to have power rankings this week, of course, and we're going to have a lot of other things as well. I'm not sure if we're going to have previews or not. Depends on how much I record tonight. So as I'm recording this is Saturday, and this gets released on Thursday. So anyway, so stay tuned. We got a lot coming up for you. I hope you enjoyed the show.
You've got mail.
What
did he say?
Yep, we're beginning our show this week, the Fed Flash Face-Off, talking about the expansion. You got the news on Wednesday, officially announced, South Haven, Mississippi, which, if you don't know where that is just over the state line from Tennessee in the Mississippi, from Memphis, Tennessee. Obviously, a big metro area. So there was a team or a couple of teams previously in South Haven in the Landers Center, the Mississippi River Kings. And they played in the SPHL or the CHL. I think those are the 2 leagues they played in. So now, as opposed to the previous expansion announcement with Minnesota, this one makes a lot of sense geographically. It's going to offer a lot of travel relief for a lot of clubs. Now, on this very crudely configured map, it's not really a map, but kind of. In this instance, I'm just focusing on teams that are at the Midwest over going westward. I didn't include a full-scale map, including the teams in the Northeast and the teams down in the Southeast. Just wanted to focus on the more Western teams, and I want to talk a little bit about all of this. Because it kind of looks like one of those memes that you get all the the pictures with the strings and the conspiracy theorist guy. Although this is not a conspiracy theorist, this is a very crude league map. So South Haven, of course, represented here by the FPHL Shield because we're still getting everything set with branding and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of where this is and how this affects the other teams in the league. Now, as of this moment, the announcement of South Haven would take the league up to 16 teams because we still haven't had an announcement on Motor City, which is why there's a question mark there. There is the possibility of 16 teams being in the league next year. There's also a possibility that this gets scaled back to 14. A lot could happen, but we will know for sure by about the time that the finals are going on, the playoffs, once we get to the final series, we'll have a pretty good idea, because by then the league needs to start working on creating the schedule matrix for next season. And so, teams, are you in? Are you out? What's going on? That all has to be decided and finalized by early May. So that way the league gets the rough draft of the matrix done. So when the Board of Governors meet for the annual meetings in late May, early June, the first draft of the schedule can be presented. The Board of Governors can look at it, say, okay, we need some changes made. The usual process. We've talked about the scheduling process before on the Fed League Flash. But not to get into that too much. Again, a very crude map, just showing you how this cuts down on travel costs for a lot of teams. Now, I have all my strings here, and I know, so it's kind of overwhelming and very confusing. But basically, I did the travel distances from point to point. First one, because this was one of the big considerations, Topeka needed travel partners. They needed to be able to cut down on their travel, and this does the job for Topeka. Now they have two opponents that are less than 10-hour drives away for them. You have, and another one that's 10 and a half. So you have Indiana, that was already there. That was 9 hours. It's about 8.5 to Memphis / South Haven. And to Minnesota for Topeka, it's about 10.5 hours. All right, so that gives them a little bit of relief, because we knew, okay, Minnesota's already set. Minnesota's going to be in the league next year. We figured these two teams would be playing a lot, but we didn't want to see a thing where Topeka was playing Indiana 16 times and Minnesota 16 times. Now we have the 10-15 difference to Monroe as well. That's not too bad. They've played each other a couple times. And then you have South Haven now, 8.5 hours. So 4 teams spread out to help with that pod scheduling. And that really should help. That should make a big difference. Now, if you notice, the other thing about South Haven is they're kind of right in the middle of a whole bunch of other teams. There's like a ring around them, at least for now. Okay, so that's good. South Haven, travel distance to Monroe, 4.5 hours. Not bad. 7 hours to Indiana. 6 hours to Biloxi. 5.5 hours to Baton Rouge. We'll get to this in just a second. But anyway, now if there was going to be a matchup between South Haven and Minnesota, the 17.5 hours, that's a bit lengthy. But then again, almost all the distances with Minnesota are going to be lengthy. As you see here, their 2 shortest trips are Topeka, 10.5 hours, and then 14.5 hours to Indiana. So it's going to be a rough year travel-wise for Minnesota. It just is. Kind of like what Topeka is facing this current year. You just kind of bite the bullet and hope that for the 2027 to 28 season, 2 years from now, that perhaps some other things kind of fill in the middle here. So, and there are talks going on with cities in which that could happen. Not going to happen in time for this upcoming season, but the league does want to look ahead and work ahead. So there are several options being explored for the 2027-28 season. All right. So with that said, I did the little travel distances between other points too. If you're wondering where your team logo is, and you look at Indiana, okay, 7 hours to South Haven, 6 hours to Port Huron, 5 hours to Motor City, maybe, and so on and so forth. So, but as you can see now with this, if you don't have South Haven, that's an awful lot of travel distances just got created. Now it's been cut down tremendously. So South Haven's going to have a good opportunity to play quite a few different teams this year, and not break the bank with their travel costs. So this has been in the works. The ownership group has been trying to get into South Haven since 2018, 2019. All right, it's been a long time, and now finally, the management at the Landers Center said, you know what? Yeah, this looks good, and with the budget that the FPHL runs on, there's some money to be made here. So it's going to be a very good situation. Now, I do want to touch on the question marks. All right. And this is not going to be easy for some people to hear, so I'm sorry. But now I'm going to word things very carefully because I don't want there to be any kind of misunderstanding, or I know this is happening or this isn't happening. Okay, nothing has been finalized yet. I'm just talking about with these three teams, the likelihood or the possibility. So I want that understood, that I'm not trying to mislead you and give you misinformation. They're going to be here. They're not going to be here. All right. Because we don't know. That's why there are question marks. Because right now I don't know. Biloxi. The odds of Biloxi returning to the league next year are pretty thin. I will be candid with you. It doesn't mean that it absolutely positively cannot happen. The odds are not zero. Okay. So is there still a chance? The meme. So you're saying there's a chance? Yeah, there's a chance. However, going into this season, the current season we're in, when Biloxi struck the 1-year lease agreement with the Mississippi Coast Coliseum, and the reason why it was only 1 year is because they said, the Mississippi Coast Coliseum said, we need butts in the seats, and that hasn't happened. The Mississippi Coast Coliseum set a threshold of 3,000, an average of 3,000 fans per game. Obviously, we haven't even come close to that in Biloxi. So, again, I'm saying the odds, it's a long shot that they will come back, but it is not finalized. It's not impossible. That's the likelihood. Now, Baton Rouge, a lot of questions there. Baton Rouge coming back? Are they not? Negotiations have been going on almost all year long. Okay, the Zydeco want to stay. The Zydeco want to be there. They just need a more favorable lease agreement with the Raising Cane's River Center, because frankly, the deal that was struck by Barry Soskin, when Soskin was the owner of the Zydeco, sucked. So the Zydeco are not making money. The Zydeco are not asking for the farm. They're not asking for the world. They're just asking for some concessions to be made by the Raising Cane's River Center that will make things profitable for both parties. Negotiations are still going on. So the word that I've been given is, Zydeco fans, don't panic. All right, because nothing is finalized yet. The Raising Cane's River Center has not said, no, absolutely no, we don't want you back. They have not said that. All right. However, the Zydeco have been trying desperately to create a better situation, again, for both parties, so that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And talks are still ongoing. So, And that's a good thing. Okay, look at it this way. Yes, talks have been going on for a long time. They're still going on. There's still negotiations. There's still communication going back and forth. We don't have a situation where one party has closed the door and said, nope, we're done. That hasn't happened. So the odds of the Zydeco, well, I'm not going to give you a figure, but it's not a guarantee they're going to come back. It's not a guarantee that they aren't going to come back. All right. So life goes on. That takes us to Motor City. We have been waiting for 4 months now for an announcement. Now, I know the rumors that are out there are saying they're going to be playing in Wyandotte, Michigan, which is south of Detroit, a little bit farther away from Port Huron, but as you can see, not that far. It's only an hour and a half trip. That's extremely doable. And it's a little closer to Indiana. However, we've been expecting an announcement to be made for quite some time, and it just never has happened. So that, in my mind, that gives some pause for concern, because this supposedly was done a while ago. Well, why don't we have an announcement saying, okay, yeah, we're going to be playing Wyandotte, we're going to be ready to go in October? We haven't received that. We haven't received any announcement either saying, no, it's not happening. But it's been a long time. I think the time for an announcement has already passed. It's time to get things done. Now, as I just alluded to a little bit earlier, whether Motor City does or does not come back this upcoming season, that decision is going to have to be made within the next 5 to 6 weeks. That would take us to about the time when we hit the finals in the playoffs. So we're going to know by then, definitely. But until then, the red question mark stays there, because we just don't really know. I have reached out to the management of Motor City a couple times, and I just have not gotten a response. So I don't have anything positive or negative to give to you. Just right now, again, we're all right. So anyway, the Minnesota Northern Lights, I almost called them Minnesota Moose, and that would be wrong. The Minnesota Northern Lights, featuring Twig, they're set. South Haven is set. So we definitely have 2 new teams coming in this next season. And again, yes, this does kind of push the league a little bit farther west, but also, again, just geographically, this really ties things in very, very nicely. So, and I know that some other teams in the area are very happy about this. Monroe, especially, 4.5 hours. That's going to be a big rivalry. The Zydeco, if they are able to come back, then yeah, it's 5.5 hours. That's not too bad. Basically, any of these teams that come back for this next year, you don't have to see the same team over and over and over and over and over again. Hopefully, when the league creates its matrix and gets the interaction with the Board of Governors, hopefully everyone will see that. Yes, we do need to watch our costs with travel, but there also needs to be a balance. I think we have seen this year that fans have expressed a lot of displeasure with seeing the same team over and over and over again. The Zydeco, you saw Monroe 12 times. You saw Biloxi a whole ton of times. You saw Topeka a whole bunch of times. And it's kind of like, all right, that's nice. Can we see some other teams now? and almost everyone in the league suffered the same fate. The Northeast, you had the three teams playing each other a ton of times. You have um, uh, in the Southeast, it's not so bad because there's kind of five teams kind of clumped together to kind of spread things out a little bit. But okay, Twin City and Blue Ridge, you see each other a bunch, and yeah, it's a great rivalry. But at the same time, you're also thinking, I'd like to see somebody else. So we'll see if there's a better balance to the schedule. You're never going to have a schedule where everybody plays everybody else. It's never going to happen. It just isn't feasible financially, or from a time standpoint either. It takes time to travel. You're not going to see Monroe traveling to Watertown. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, there we go. That's kind of looking at our expansion and the effect that it has throughout the league. So interesting way to start the show off, huh? All right, power rankings. We're only doing this one more time this year, in 2 weeks, of course. Pre-populated the lower seeds because there hasn't been any movement in those positions. I decided to have a little fun, go with some alternate logos, some past logos, and stuff like that. So just for a little different look. All right, so counting up from 14, of course, to number 1. Biloxi's still at 14. You can't escape being at the bottom with 2 defensive men on your roster and going 4 wins over 42 games. This is after a somewhat promising start. This whole season has been kind of very Dashers like, unfortunately. Number 13, Indiana Sentinels. I struggled though between them and the Zydeco. I kind of weighed and considered, but I think overall the Zydeco still play a little bit better of a defensive game, so they're a little tougher to play against. Although, there's a couple teams that have struggled against Indiana. Indiana has 5 wins against Port Huron, 3 against Topeka, who they play this week. So, who knows? Maybe when we do our final ratings in 2 weeks, maybe Indiana will be in number 12 spot. Who knows? 12 is a Zydeco. And again, they've been kind of holding there. They've been, I felt a little bit better in Indiana. Better than Biloxi, but not really going anywhere. So number 11, the Watertown Wolves. Now, they've really had a hard time over the last 2 weeks. The last 10 games, they've gone 1-8-1. And as I mentioned in the preview segment, they've only scored 13 goals in their last 7 games. And that is rough. They're not playing poorly. I've seen several Watertown games over this 10-game stretch, and it's just a matter of things just aren't clicking. They get the plays down, they try and set things up, and it just doesn't work out. So, and sometimes things are like that. All right, number 10. Let's have a little fun with this. Let's go back to the classic logo for the Thunderbirds. They do drop down 1 spot, 5-5 in their last 10. They're trying to play catch up, trying to get into that playoff spot that's currently held by PD. They were able to string together 3 wins this last weekend. You're playing Biloxi, but now they've got to face Athens, and this is the real test. So the offense has been a little bit better, but again, just kind of locked in place. Not terrible, not great. I dropped them because the next team, number 9, Danbury Hat-Tricks, have been playing very well as of late. 7 wins in their last 10 games, and their defensive play, their team defense, has been very solid. They are not an easy team to play against. So I put them up, bumped them up, and passed the Thunderbirds for this ranking here. Okay, let's go to number 8. That is still the PD Ice Cats, and it looks like they might end up being, if you rank teams 1 through 8, the playoff teams, they might be getting ranked 8th. They're a little bit enigmatic right now. They come out one day, they play absolutely great, look like world beaters, and then the next game they get dominated. So it's very up and down right now. I'm thinking they're probably going to hang on to that 4th spot. And then, if so, they've got to play against Athens, who they have had success against. So let's see what's going to happen there. All right, number 7, another team that dropped 1, and that is the Topeka Scarecrows. I can't figure out why this team isn't getting rolling offensively. I mean, they've brought in Stephen Clank and Trevor Lord and several other key people that were supposed to help the offense get going. Still a solid team defensively. That has never changed. It's always been that way this whole year. But there's just no real offense to support the defensive effort that they're putting through. They're just not getting enough goals and enough offensive opportunities generated. All right, so that means going up 1 place is the Blue Ridge Bobcats, and that's crooked, but that's okay. That's what happens when you're trying to reach like this. Okay, so the Bobcats doing all right. They've managed to climb up into 3rd place in the Empire, and they definitely look playoff bound. They're only 5 points away from clinching a berth, as opposed to Topeka is still at 10 points. So there's been some separation between these two in the standings. PD coming off of a couple of shutout wins last week. Let's see if they can keep that momentum going into this weekend when they face PD. That is going to be a very interesting series. Okay, number 5, dropping down 1 spot, is the Columbus River Dragons. And since they ended that hot streak that they were on, where they won like 8 in a row, it's been up and down. 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. The offense has kind of sputtered. I'm hoping Ryan Hunter isn't battling an injury, because he just has not looked like himself over the last 3 weeks. Tyler Barrow, he's having a fantastic year. There's only so much one person can do, though. So let's see if we can get some more support. He and Storjahan have been doing most of the heavy lifting as of late. And in goal, of course, Trevor Babin has had a couple of really solid outings. Trevor Roy, he's kind of up and down. So let's kind of see what happens. See if he's able to kind of find a groove again. All right, number 4 is up 1 spot, the Port Huron Prowlers. They have been playing very solidly as of late, 7-3 in their last 10, and defensively, according to stats, 2nd best in the league. I think the only thing that's holding them back is the moments of undisciplined play, which do happen from game to game. But that doesn't happen every game. Some games they come in and they just turn in a very solid effort and play well. Reed Cooper was given some time off. I don't know if maybe he might be battling a little bit of something, but Bailey Huber has been great playing in Cooper's stead. So the Prowlers feel very comfortable with him. All right, number 3, it's the Monroe Moccasins, and they've been here for a few weeks now, and I feel like if you take the 3 teams and kind of compare them head to head, I don't think Monroe is quite as good as Binghamton. I don't think they're quite as good as Athens. So those are our 2 teams that are left. And, injuries has played a big part in things. They've been playing with a lot of guys out of the lineup. But fortunately, the college kids that they have signed have all played very well. But I do worry that maybe Ty Masternak kind of got burnt out the last few times he's played. It's been really touch and go. Some days he's really great. Other days it's not so much. So we'll see how things go. But the defense isn't quite as intimidating as it was a month ago or 2 months ago. Still solid, but one of the top 3 teams in the league. You can't sneeze at that. But they've got some work cut out for them if they want to go deep in the playoffs. Number 2 is the main team that Monroe has to worry about. And that's the Athens Rock Lobsters. They continue to just kind of chug right along. They are 5 points up on Monroe in the standings right now. And it looks like they're probably going to end up with that top seed. So then the question is, well, do these 2 guys face each other in the playoffs? Now, they have 4 more meetings against each other the regular season, but Athens has won 8 of those 9 games. So I think Athens has proved that they are a step above Monroe. Number 1, and mainly based on just how fantastic their defensive play has been as of late. Binghamton Black Bears, they are surrendering a goal a game over the last 8 games. That includes 4 shutouts, and it's just really impressive to see. They're just not giving opposing teams any opportunities or any really good quality opportunities. When you're playing defense like the Black Bears are, I mean, it's no wonder that their goal differential is currently a plus 152. I mean, that's insane. That is an insane number. It's just incredible. 115 goals surrendered. 115 goals surrendered overall in 50 games. So that's just a little over 2 a game. You're not going to score much on Binghamton, and that is the way that you win a championship, is good defensive play. And I think these 3 teams, well, the first 4 teams, I think really have a really solid defense, good defensive scheme going on. So you're not going to score on them a whole lot. So I think these 4 are going to push each other during the playoffs, even if they don't meet head to head. For example, in the first 2 rounds, obviously Port Huron's not going to face Monroe, but I think these 2 teams will kind of push each other just by what they do. The other team's going to be looking and saying, okay, that's what we could be up against. So anyway, so there it is. There is our final, second to last power rankings. And again, we'll do this one more time in 2 weeks. And then after that, down the road, we'll talk about how the final power rankings compared to when I first did power rankings at the very beginning of the year. My initial power rankings, which was done just after the first week of the season. We'll see how teams have progressed. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mennen Arena in Morristown, New Jersey. This is pregame before the Wolves and the Hat Tricks face off. I'm going to get out of the way here, and just so you can see stuff, just to give you an idea of the setup here. This is an older arena. It was built in 1975, but it's in really, really good shape. As you can see, you got theater-style seats. You got people bouncing around here, getting all set for the game, for their part and what they're going to be doing. You got the Hat Tricks players down there down on the end that are just kind of cutting loose a little bit. Johnny Ruiz is down there. He's helping with the merchandise table, which is also down at that corner. It's a nice open area. The ceiling isn't very high in this place. I'd say maybe 40 feet. So a little bit lower than some other arenas, but it's still very wide open. There's a lot of room. There's a lot of elbow room for people in the seats. And this is a really nice setup. It's very intimate, and yet you are able to be very comfortable here. So we're looking forward to the game. As you can see, the clock is counting down there to the time that the teams get ready for warm-ups. They're all getting to their locker rooms. If I kind of pan around here a little bit, you can see there's side entrances here for the players. I still haven't gotten the complete lay of the land here, but it's really nice. You got the PA announcer and the official scorers, of course, down there by the penalty boxes. You've got the team boxes across the way. A little small, but not bad. And this is kind of I'm standing right on the blue line right here, so you can get a good idea of how things are set up. Now, as we've mentioned before, we want to get an FPHL team here. As you know, we're a little thin on teams in the northeastern area for the FPHL, and that's where the roots of the league are, all in the Northeast. When the league started, it was 5 teams in New York State plus Danbury, the Danbury Whalers. Matter of fact, when I came in here, I I ended up talking to an individual who talked about going to the old Whalers games at the Danbury Ice Arena. So that was nice meeting him. But again, this is a good location. It's not too far off the interstates I-80 and I-287 where they meet. It's just like 10 minutes south of there, so it's really easy to get to. If you're traveling by bus with a team, yeah, a pretty convenient location. And again, there's no bells and whistles here. It's very simple. You've got just the one clock here, kind of reminiscent of what you have in Indiana, where the clock for Indiana is right above the team benches. In this case, it's down in the end, kind of like how things used to be at the Center Ice Arena down in Delaware. There are some areas for media. Let me get back up here, kind of show you around. Just want to give you a good idea of what it looks like here. There's our video man. Danbury is going to be broadcasting the game on YouTube, of course. And of course, I know as I'm saying this is all after the fact. And now I am really lopsided with my camera, but that's okay. So, but again, very, very nice, simple setup here. Very wide open, so it's great for player and fan alike. They have a nice cafe here, snack bar area, and a pro shop. This is just the main arena. There is also a couple other ice sheets here, and so yeah, it's a great complex. And hopefully, what happens is we get a good response to this game. It sends a message to the county officials with Morris County, because this is owned by the Parks and Recreation Department. Hopefully it sends a good message to them. It's like, hey, pro hockey, minor league hockey is going to work here. Let's make it happen and get a deal. Probably will not happen in time for next season, and we'll talk about that next week. All right, so make sure you tune in, because we're going to be looking at the state of the league next week on the Fed Flash Faceoff. This week, we're focusing on expansion, but I wanted to throw this segment in with you. This whole show is going to be more Flash chat than anything else. And that's okay. Something different to enjoy, but we'll still have our segments all listed out. So anyway, yeah, I am very impressed. Again, an older facility, and that is perfectly fine. We have some other arenas in minor pro hockey which have been around for a long time. The Visions Veterans Memorial Arena in Binghamton was built in 1973. You have Carver Arena in Peoria for the SPHL. I believe that was built in 1969, and they're all good facilities. So anyway, yeah, looking really nice. So we're going to get ready for the game. I'm going to catch a couple of people before everything starts and I start my broadcast, but I wanted to start first by showing you guys what it looks like here. So strap in for the rest of the show. I hope you enjoy it. As a matter of fact, right now we're going to go right to the main topic for this edition of the Fed Flash Faceoff, and that is the announced expansion to South Haven, Mississippi. So strap in. right, so lots to cover here on news and notes. So this might be a little bit of a longer segment, but before we begin, I do have to mention some Fed League Flash news. My schedule has changed, unfortunately, due to a coworker's injury, and so I'm now jumping into that person's role, which changes my hours. And so, as such, I'm not going to have as much time to record segments for future Fed League Flash Face-Off or Fed Flash Face-Off shows. So starting next week, things are going to be scaled back some. We're basically going to have three main segments. We're still going to do a Flash chat every week. We'll have our news and notes segment, and then something else, whether it be power rankings or a mailbag or something else, maybe a short interview. Something else will fit in there, but it's basically going to be three segments from here on out. Not going to be doing the game previews other than maybe just like a snapshot, doing a little snapshot and, like a minute long little mention of each game or something like that. Standings, same thing, maybe just a little snapshot. So most likely our show is going to cut back from approximately what it is now, like an hour 15 to an hour 20, back to about maybe 45 minutes. So I'm sorry about that, and I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to continue doing some of the other things that I do with the WordPress page and stuff like that. I'll stay as up to date as I possibly can, but I just wanted to let you know that things are going to scale back a little bit, which we're nearing the end of the season anyway. So when we get into the playoffs, it's going to scale back some anyway. But I am going to continue doing a Fed Flash Face-Off show during the summers. It'll probably end up moving to Saturdays, but I haven't decided that yet. All right, enough about me. Let's get to the actual news. Of course, we already talked about it in the Flash Chat segment. We do have new team, South Haven, Mississippi, and they will be playing next year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this and some associated things with expansion. But yeah, we've already covered pretty much how this affects other teams with the schedule, the time distances, things like that. But this is definitely also going to affect alignment. We don't know right now what our final alignment is going to look like, but I can tell you that the chances of another expansion team coming in are slim. The only possible exception would be Motor City. Now, the league needs to keep an even number of teams, whether it's 14 or 16. Right now, with South Haven and Minnesota added, we have 16. We don't know if Biloxi's coming back. There's some question marks elsewhere. So basically, the only way that Motor City would fit in is if another team was out and taking things back to an odd number of teams. The league does not want to deal with creating a schedule with odd number of teams because this is a weekend-driven league. Everything is pretty much Fridays and Saturdays. Those are the two big days, two big draws. You don't get a lot of people coming out for a Tuesday night game or a Thursday night game typically. So the league wants to keep things as much as possible to Friday, Saturday, and then some Sundays or whatever. So Motor City, the say is not entirely up to them whether they come back or not. A lot depends on what else happens in the league. All right. Now, I did want to mention, because this is expansion related, a lot of people have messaged me and said, hey, Bridgeport is available now. How about that? Bridgeport, of course, has been home of the Bridgeport Islanders before that. Their real name, the Bridgeport Sound Tigers in the AHL. They are moving to Hamilton, Ontario next season. So right now, there is no hockey in the 26-27 season in Bridgeport. So everybody said, hey, how about that? It just wouldn't work out. First of all, this close to you know, to the time when everything needs to be established for a new team coming in, be awfully rushed. There's the question of who's the management group that's going to operate the team, who's the ownership group, and also expenses. Man, is it expensive to live in and around Bridgeport, Connecticut. That area along the I-95 corridor in between the New York, Connecticut line and up to New Haven, it is really, really expensive. So operating costs would be through the roof in comparison to a lot of other Fed teams. I don't know what the rent situation would look like at the arena. It is a beautiful facility, and it's not that old. It's 25 years old. But housing is expensive. Just everything is more expensive in that area. So it just really wouldn't work out, unfortunately. So not for a Fed budget. If there is going to be another team, pro hockey team in Bridgeport, Connecticut, it's going to be like ECHL. I don't see any lower than that. All right. Talked about that. I'm referring to my notes here. Okay. So let's move on. Do want to mention Jeff Barrett, the play-by-play voice of the Watertown Wolves for the last 9 seasons, is retiring as play-by-play voice at the end of the season, which means that there's only a couple more games left for him to be at the broadcast helm. His last game will be April 4th, Saturday, and I know I will definitely be tuning in. Jeff, I've very much enjoyed his work. He's a good friend as well. I've had many conversations, not even hockey-related things. Jeff is a great, great guy, but he said, it's time to move on. I've been doing this for 9 years. It's time for me to go back to just being a fan. And so he is going to hand over the mic to Connor Lalone, who has been with him doing color commentary the last couple of years. Connor is going to do a fine job. Connor will be great. And I know Connor as well. Yeah, great guy. But Jeff, you will be sorely missed if you see this. Just want to offer well wishes and congratulations on a great career. You've been with the Watertown Wolves since the championship years, and it's going to be sad not hearing your voice for a Watertown Wolves game. But make sure that you tune in to the Wolves broadcast on rumble.com or on Sporfy, if you use Sporfy. That will be, again, Saturday, April 4th. That will be Jeff Barrett's final broadcast. And again, well wishes to Jeff. Jeff has a lot of other things going on. He's very much involved in a lot of charity work, especially in regards to cancer research. He loves riding his motorcycle, so I'm sure he's going to go on a lot of bike rides. And we just wish Jeff all the best, and want to let you know again, you will be sorely missed. Okay, neutral site games we talked a little bit about before. You saw some of the footage earlier from the one game. And this is something the Fed has done quite frequently, neutral site games, to explore new markets, open up new venues for future Fed teams. We've had games in Dayton, Ohio, and Port Huron, Bloomington, Illinois, Topeka, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a lot of different locations, and they have worked out very well. Obviously, for a while we had a team in Dayton until the arena was torn down. We have a team in Port Huron because we had an expansion game or an exhibition game there. There was almost hockey in Bloomington, Illinois. Now there is ECHL hockey there with the Bison, but the Fed was exploring that for quite a while before COVID hit, and that kind of undid all the work that had been poured into that. But Topeka obviously has worked out well. Things have worked out great in Twin City. So again, the hope is between last week's game in New Jersey and this week's games in Minnesota. Remember, it's Friday and Saturday. We already have a team there, but we're trying to build a lot of hype, sell some season tickets, get fans excited and the community excited about FPHL hockey coming to Minnesota. So again, the games are Friday and Saturday. Topeka versus Indiana, 7 o'clock local, 8 o'clock Eastern for both games Friday and Saturday. So make sure to tune in, and don't worry if you don't see shoulder to shoulder the house is 100% packed, because this is again just kind of a step in the process with beginning pro hockey in these markets. So it'll be very good. I'm hoping that we have a good turnout in Minnesota. We will see. We did have about 1,000 people in New Jersey, and we probably aren't going to see a team for next year. But the hope is perhaps in the 27 to 28 season, there could be an expansion team coming to Mennen Arena in Morristown, New Jersey. Again, it's very convenient to get to. A lot of the people that were there were not necessarily Danbury fans or Watertown fans. They were just local people, and they wanted to see, hey, let's check out some Fed hockey and take it in. So, I met several people that were there that said, I live, 20 miles away or 30 miles away. Wanted to come see this game. So, we'll see what the end result is, but hopefully we can continue to build up that market. The last thing I want to get into is it's hard to really emphasize how this ties into the Fed, but it does. And this is kind of a twofold point here. First of all, many of you know that there are a couple of Senior A leagues. These are potentially leagues that could have affiliations between some of the teams and some of the Fed teams. That was tried with APHL. Unfortunately, the APHL is a mess. It's a real mess. We started off the year, coming into the year, there was going to be a 12-team league, and then within a month of opening day, a couple teams fell by the wayside. Nope, we can't have a team here. We can't have a team there. So, okay, we're back to 10. And then we had more problems. We had a couple teams that allegedly were suspended by the league. There's some doubt as far as whether maybe the teams were looking for other options and looking to get out because they didn't think the APHL was run properly. There's been a lot of back and forth on social media. We're down to 6 teams now in the APHL, and it was just announced that the team in Toledo, which has already folded and rebranded and restarted, that they will not be returning as per the APHL for next season. So they talk about they want to have teams here and there, and they want to have a 32 team league. I don't know if they survive after this year. I really don't. And then you have the other Senior A league, which is the MIHL, the Michigan Independent Hockey League. They do have 6 teams right now. They have 2 teams already agreed to be joining the league next year, and then they're looking at announcing another possible team for next week. They want to have 10 for the next season, and they will be either in Michigan or very close to Michigan. So the one team is in Findlay, Ohio, which is a little bit of a trip, especially for players that don't. Yeah, it's semi-pro, so it's a little tough with travel. So we'll see how this works out. But now, along with that, there is talk about a new league springing up that would potentially focus on some of the failed markets in the FPHL, like Danville and Mentor, Ohio. Perhaps what was some of the other? Well, they were talking about Alexandria Bay, where the Watertown Wolves began, but that arena is currently unusable. So that really wouldn't work out. But anyway, focusing on smaller arenas that seat between, say, like 700 to 800 to about 1,500. They want to establish a short season single A hockey league that could work as a feeder league to the FPHL. I've received all sorts of information on this league or the proposal for it. And after looking at it, I don't think it would work. First of all, the budgetary numbers that were given to me leave no room for error. So if something goes wrong, and with a new league, something always goes wrong, you're going to incur a lot of costs and a lot of loss. For that reason, I don't think it's going to work. I also don't think it's going to work because you're just going to oversaturate things, especially in the northern part of the Fed footprint right now. You've got the APHL, you've got the MIHL, you've got this proposed league, you've got the Fed. Okay, and even on the western end, you have a couple of SPHL teams. All right. I know the thought is this is separate from semi-pro. This is not the MIHL. This is not the APHL. It'll be a step above. I don't think public perception would share that viewpoint. I think everyone would just see, okay, this is all single A, because that's how the APHL and MIHL are billed. They're billed as single A senior. All right, so everyone's looking at now, my goodness, possibly five single A leagues. It's too much. There is a lot of people that share the viewpoint that the SPHL and the FPHL really ought to start working on finding a way of merging. And I think long term, that would be very prudent and beneficial. It's not going to happen for a while for a number of reasons, including egos, personality clashes and the egos. And there also is a different pay structure, a different operating budget, a different financial model between the SP and the FPHL. So everyone's just talking about, well, you should just consolidate things. Make it one league. Now you're talking about you want 5 senior or single A leagues. I just don't see it being able to fly. So the goal, the long shot goal, is this new league wants to start up this upcoming season, the 26-27 season. I personally, I just don't see it. I don't see any viability and practicality to it. So, which reminds me, the person who sent me all this information, I've got to contact them and, let them know directly. I'm sorry, but it's not going to fly. But it's very interesting. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, and there's a lot of people that are looking for their slice of the pie. You get too many hands into a pie, eventually the pie is just destroyed and nobody gets any. So I think really you need to work towards consolidation and towards merging rather than creating more leagues. What was it, about 3 years ago? We had I forgot his name. Gentleman that was going to create a new single A league down in Florida, and the investments just kind of fell through. They couldn't secure venues. It fell by the wayside. It's not an easy thing to start a league. You could say you have a bunch of numbers and a bunch of figures, and this is how we're going to make it work. But you still got to actually take the physical steps in planning and preparation and organizing. And if you're missing that, it doesn't matter how good your numbers look. It's not going to work. So that's why usually when a league starts, it takes a good 12 to 18 months from the time that they say, yes, we're coming into existence and this is what we're going to do, to the point where they say, okay, we're ready to go. And it takes a long time and it's not easy. All right, so that ends all of that. All right, so that does it for today's show. We've talked a lot about expansion, potentially here to New Jersey, South Haven, of course, Minnesota, and we got those games coming up this weekend in Minnesota, so make sure to tune in for that. Or if you are in the Minnesota area, go to the games, support the Indiana Sentinels, support the Topeka Scarecrows, support the FPHL. All right, as we close out, just want to remind you once more, we're speaking of more. It says more right down here. All right, click on more. And if you can't watch the whole thing, you get all the timestamps for the different segments of this video. Click on the segment that you want. It goes right there. If you want to spend just 15, 20 minutes here, I appreciate it. I thank you so much for tuning in and for joining me for this edition of the Fed Flash Faceoff. Tune in next Thursday. A lot of stuff coming up on that show too. So for now, I am Gary Ryan, the Fed League Flash, reminding you to keep your head up, keep your stick on the ice, and be excellent to each other. So long, everyone.